Hiding in the closet again. So my husband told me that he feels like I've checked out of our marriage for the last year or so. But what he doesn't realize is that it's not that I've checked out of the marriage. I've checked out of being the emotional and mental quarterback, running back, defensive back, coach, owner of this entire marriage. And I really have. Like, I'm not doing that work anymore. I'm just trying to take all of that energy, that mental and emotional energy that I put into every aspect of our relationship for the last 17 years. And I'm taking it and I'm actually putting it back into me. And because I'm not like the superhuman person, I don't have enough for him. I don't have enough for me and him. And there's not enough room for both of us on the headboard. Now, because I'm a woman, of course, my tendency is to feel bad about it, especially when he expresses displeasure or sadness or feeling like I'm getting further away from him. I'm not doing that work anymore. And now he's like really noticing it. I explained to him too that like I'm on my therapy journey. I'm not happy and I'm not blaming him. I'm taking ownership of it myself and saying, hey, I've got work to do. I've got things that I have to do to get my head right, to get my spirit right, to get my soul right. I want to make plans for myself. I want to do things that make me happy and make me feel good about myself. And the fact is, it hasn't always been this relationship. This relationship has drained the shit out of me. But when I try to explain it to him, it's like I'm speaking, you know, Chinese. Like, he doesn't understand what I'm saying because I did it for so long. Like, willingly and happily, I did all the planning for every aspect of our lives, everything that we've done. I'm always taking the first step. I'm always saying the first person to say I'm sorry. Like, I'm always taking the lead in that mental and emotional space since the beginning of the marriage. I mean, I get it. I know he's used to it. It's what he's comfortable with. But I can't do it anymore. Like, I just can't. I don't have enough for him. And I need to take care of myself. And of course I do feel bad, but I don't feel bad because I know I'm doing what's best for me. You know, I matter. I'm a human being too. Actually, there's kind of a part of me that hopes that he looks at me and sees the work that I'm doing, and then maybe he might take it upon himself to do some work that he needs to do for himself. I don't know. That might be a pipe dream though. One of the things that I'm learning in therapy is how getting married and having a family has really been a trauma response for me to my really abusive and difficult childhood. I think a lot of us know, especially people who are adult survivors, know how do we get through the most horrible things that happen to us when we're kids. And for most of us, a lot of us, one of our big coping strategy is to develop a really rich kind of fantasy world for ourselves. We kind of let our imagination go and we like disassociate kind of from what's really happening to us. And we go into this other world where we're safe, loved, happy, protected. And I think for a lot of us, we cling to that fantasy. Even when we are gone from that trauma, when we become adults, we're no longer those helpless, vulnerable children. We're now adults with agency. A lot of us still tend to cling to that fantasy idea of relationships and how we relate to each other, how we treat each other. We're more in tune to the idea of it than what is actually really happening in real life in our relationships. Because I don't think that we've developed the coping strategies for how to deal with those relationships in real life. Because our coping strategy was to fantasize and to retreat from real life. I know that in my marriage, that's definitely something that I've done. When things have gone wrong in my marriage, I've gone back to my childhood trauma response, which is to retreat into fantasy land. Fantasy about who my husband is and what he's going to do, what I'm going to do, and our children and our life. Make it all up in my own mind. And then I don't have to deal with or act on what's really happening. Because either we don't know how to deal with it because we don't have the right coping strategies, or dealing with it is too hard. It's just too hard for us. It's too painful. I mean, that's really how I've been able to stay in my marriage for so many years, because that trauma, that fantasy life has been somewhere I've been able to go. And a lot of the things that go on don't even really affect me that much. I don't even know how to respond to a lot of it because instead of doing anything or responding to it, I'll just go into my fantasy world. But now that I have a teenage daughter, I have 2 kids, I'm realizing that that is not an appropriate way to deal with the real things in your life, especially when it comes to your relationships, that you have to really be in the moment and you have to be present. That's the only way that you can do anything or respond appropriately. And I want to be able to teach my daughter how to respond, how to be present in her relationships and in her life. And that retreating to the fantasy world is not an appropriate or healthy coping strategy. But just know, you know, particularly for survivors of childhood trauma, that's really, really hard for us. It's hard for us to live in reality because it's not something that we're used to, because our realities are so scary and frightening and traumatizing. And that's why we want to retreat.